that she works in and has seen great success in.
Might ditch this microphone, actually. First of all, would you mind just very quickly indulging me by closing your eyes and taking a nice, slow, deep breath? If you just place your hands on your tummies, I want you to feel how many of you can actually feel. It's like blowing up a balloon in your tummy. That's what we should be doing, breathing right into our lower lungs. And just put up the corners of your mouth, each side, into a smile. So just a nice, slow, deep breath in. And then breathe all the way out, as if you're pushing your navel to your spine. Okay, you can open your eyes. Now that's just helped me as much as anything to centre myself, because I don't usually sit up here. I'm just a parent. But yeah, what I wanted to just get across, we'll talk about breathing in a bit, but also the impact of smiling. Because when we smile, that sends a signal to our brain that we're happy. And then in turn, the brain releases neurotransmitters and all the happy hormones, so we actually begin to feel happy. So that is just a little skill that we as parents, especially in this room, could probably do with quite a lot of the time. So why am I here? I am a holistic health and well-being coach, amongst other things. And I am here to give you some tips that have helped me along our journey with your children. But importantly, I think, is actually to help you as parents. Now, I've become a wellbeing coach from my experience with two very sensitive children, one of whom has Asperger's and ADHD and is sitting in the audience here and will be speaking to you afterwards because he's now a professional magician, and I wouldn't have thought that a few years ago. That's Angus. Now, I'm passionate about parents and just being able really to find ourselves a bit higher up the food chain, because we tend to be right at the bottom. And we are the vehicle to help our children navigate their challenging world. So what can I offer? Well, it's the space to get back in touch with yourself, really. Time to offload worries, question the stories in your heads about not being good enough or not achieving enough for your children. The opportunity to access tools and techniques to help bring down anxiety for you and your child. And a window of time to access the stillness, which actually is in all of us, but we often forget, so that we can lie down and perhaps a little bit later come out with a different perspective on the challenges that face us. And I do this with a range of modalities. I studied body talk, which is based on quantum medicine. And if we all think of a picture of an iceberg, it works on that iceberg theory, that when we go to a medical professional, they look at the tip of the iceberg, but actually an iceberg is huge, and most of that is underneath the surface, our subconscious. And they don't have time to look at that. Body Talk has a system called Body Talk Access, which you can do on a one-day course, which I can teach within a session, but it's got lots of tools and techniques to bring down stress and overwhelm and build immunity. And Body Talk has set me on a path of personal growth, a huge path of personal growth, which I think my whole family and children have benefited from the most. I also do craniosacral fascial therapy and lymph drainage. And there are links to all of this on my handout, which actually is on the front desk if anyone would like to take one away, or I can email it. So my story began in 2002. My husband was travelling most of the time, and my two children were propping up the pharmaceutical industry with the amount of antibiotics they were taking. And I just thought, this has to be enough. I found Body Talk, which gave me the hope, and it started a fascinating journey which continues till today. Enter the world where therapists become friends. Anyone who accepted my son and saw his gifts rather than his weaknesses became a firm friend. Anyone who could work on the route and give us a roadmap to reach potential would be cherished. See, we humans are whole beings, and it takes a holistic approach to keep us well. We need to look at everybody as individuals. The phrase bandied about in special needs circles about if you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person, is very true. It doesn't qualify you as an expert in anybody else's child. Now, I'm full of admiration for our doctors, and in acute illness, the NHS is amazing, but the load needs to be shared by complementary health. Complementary medicine needs to be explored for any chronic illness, and I would guess all parents here today have a varying degree of stress, because bringing up special needs children is hard. So when we go to the doctor, we want to be fixed. So our poor medical professionals who don't know our children half as well as we do are expected to come up with a magic pill or potion to eradicate the symptoms. That's all in a 10-minute appointment. So, as I said, parenting special children isn't easy. Every day we have to put our armour on and work out what we've got to fight first. Is it the outdated school system? Is it the overstretched NHS? Or is it perhaps just getting our children out of the door in appropriate clothing that feels comfortable and acceptable to society, with the labels not annoying them? And what about the siblings who desperately need our attention, but know our capacity just isn't going to reach them as well? So I'm here today as a parent myself. We are the anchor for the family and have to work on ourselves. So if we're out of sync, everybody is, especially the mums. So I'm passionate about helping mums and dads to equip them with simple tools to stay in control of their internal environment, because that's what will help us to help our children the most. There's a phrase that says you only live once, but in fact you only die once, but we have to live every day. Now, mindfulness is a good idea, because the only place to be is the present. If we sit in the past, there's regret and sadness, and if we sit in the future, it's anxiety. So forget the slogan, Happy New Year. What about happy here and now? Now, Tessa and Jane's courses, I don't know whether anyone here has been on them, but they talk about connection and meeting your children where they're at. Now, Angus used to line up his toys and play the same game over and over again, which I used to get very frustrated about. And if I could go back, I think I would have just actually got down there and joined in. Now, movement is key. We lived in South Africa at the time, and we saw a lion kill in the Kruger. And I watched the impalas grazing on the plain, and then a lion came and hunted them down. One got taken down, and the others all went into shock and shook for a couple of minutes. Now, animals process their stress in the moment. If only we humans could do the same thing. In some way, our autistic children do that when they're stimming. It's a survival mechanism, so I don't think we should stop it. What we need to do is work to find ways to raise their threshold for stress. We looked at OT, occupational therapy. In fact, we did this on horseback, which was an amazing thing for Angus at the end of a school day. We tackled diet. Now, there's no quick fixes here, but it is well researched that gut sensitivity is a huge problem in children with autism. Ideally, they need to avoid gluten, dairy and colourants. Now, sugar's a big one, and it makes anxiety a whole lot worse. I would advocate brushing if your child is sensitive to touch. We did it for 3 months or so, which seemed like a lifetime at the time, but now Angus is free to go into pubs and crowded places and is absolutely fine. The only residue that's left is if somebody comes up behind him and touches him unexpectedly, and they will probably get clobbered. So therapies can be expensive, but tackling the basics ourselves makes a big difference. Breathing properly, as I said, right into the belly. That activates the vagus nerve. Now that calms the nervous system and it's involved in all the body systems, so that really helps. Hydration's another one. The brain is over 70% water. So on my handout I mentioned triple filtered water, which isn't too expensive, but it's so much better for you than tap water. Encourage your children to talk about their feelings, and you do the same. We have a thing at dinner where we talk about the highs and lows of the day, and it's usually quite enlightening. Rid your house of all chemicals. It's actually quite easy and cheap to do. Vinegar costs 30 pence, a bit of lemon thrown in and some water, and it's surprising what you can do. Again, there's a recipe on my resource list at the front. I work with Neal's Yard essential oils every day at home and therapeutically at work. Our sense of smell links to memory. Oils are particularly good for autism, and rose oil is great for meltdowns, vetiver oil for pulling them back together after a meltdown, and then there's peppermint oil which cools anger, and rosemary is great for focus and for transitioning, so if they don't like change, that's a great one to use. Gratitude journaling is another one. It's great for you and your children if they're okay to write. It gets the anger out onto paper, and then at the end, if they can list 3 things they're grateful for, that's a really good thing to do. And we do take so much for granted, so that's a reminder. Prioritise sleep and turn off the Wi-Fi. It's the best prescription for lifting mood and immunity and for the functioning of every body system, and it's free of charge. So if I could say anything to my younger self, it would be find a way to catch up on your sleep. If it's a choice of cleaning or sleeping, always do the sleeping. Meditation is another one. There are lots of free apps now on our phones, and for children too. And even just 10 minutes a day with your eyes closed makes a huge difference. It helps us to prioritise the jobs we have to do. It makes us calmer to deal with whatever comes at us afterwards. And they always say, if you're too busy to meditate, then do it for twice as long. I would definitely advocate working on the primitive reflexes. We've done a lot of this with anger, so it really does work. So definitely look at that. I'm happy to chat afterwards, and remember, do put your email down if you'd like the resource list from the front desk. And notice I said remember, I didn't say don't forget, because positive programme is so important with our children. If I say to you now, don't think of a pink elephant, I know what you're all thinking about. So lastly, a piece of advice my husband and I have stuck with on our journey with Angus. Forgive others' ignorance. Never give up on your child. Never lose hope. Remember, you know them better than any professional. Our children are our biggest teachers. Believe in them, praise their resilience, salute every ounce of progress they make, champion them on their journey, and they will make you and themselves extremely proud indeed. Thank you very much.
And lastly, I'd introduce, we talk about NHS.